This one here that we're gonna play
is
like stupid new. Alright? Just stupid new. We're just gonna play it because what the hell, why not, right?
Right.
You guys wanna hear a stupid ass new song, right?
Yeah.
Cool. It's a little different, but it's fun.
Hey. Yeah.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. There we go. Would you look at that? Sometimes you just got to click the right goddamn button. We're live, everybody, here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone, to a rare and unplanned Friday edition of the I'm No Joe podcast here, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. Today, due to the last-minuteness of life being a pain in the ass, to say the least, I do not know if we will have a full panel or if it will be just me, but either way, we've got a show for you for one of the most anticipated weekends in MMA, so let's jump right into it. as has been told to me by folks much smarter than myself many times, before I get into all of the craziness, I should tell you folks where you can find more of this punchy kicky shenanigan if that is your cup of tea. We can be found on basically all social media platforms. We are on Facebook at I'm No Joe. We are on Instagram at I'm No Joe. We are here on YouTube at I'm No Joe. And if the Instagram influencer level faces that happen on this show can be too much for you to understand and comprehend, fret not, mon ami. We've got you covered there as well. The I'm No Joe podcast is available in all audio format the week after it airs on YouTube at anchor.fm/I'm No Joe to be consumed through your podcast choosing platform of preference. If you want to support the shenanigans we get up to around here, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. It's where you get it's where you go to get access. Words. It's live. It's where you go to get access to the behind the scenes, the unaired, and some even say the unairable things that go on around the I'm No Joe channel here. So that being said, we are basically running Thursday's playbook on Friday because Thursday decided to be an absolute cunt. So we just moved the show to today. Unfortunately, in doing that, we did lose our panel, it looks like. Everybody already had some things going on. It is snowing cats and dogs in Fresh's neck of the woods, so he's got to winterize. TJ has got a barbecue going on, and RJ is, to the best of our knowledge, still just sitting in a corner, squeezing real hard like a Play-Doh guy trying to get that facial hair to come out. But it's all right. We still love him. Anyways, so full meat and potatoes style episode today. We have got a little bit of news because there wasn't too terribly much. And I did not update with today's news. So anything that did come out today will go on next week's show. I'm not getting into any of that. It's been a crazy 24 hours to say the least. That being said, the news that we have prior to today to start out with here, I want to talk about the medical suspensions from Abu Dhabi's Fight Island 6 that went on last weekend. Crazy fucking weekend of fights. Crazy night for the UFC. And as to be expected, some odd, to say the least, medical suspensions. First one, let's see here. I hate when it happens. Fucking spit went down the wrong fucking pipe, choked me while I was trying to talk. As far as suspensions go here, we start with the main event. Korean Zombie got 45 days because of the laceration on his eye because Ortega busted him open. Ortega got 30 days for the hard bout because it was a full 5-round hard fight. Full fight, what you know what I meant. Moving on, Andrade doing fucking hard work early, just a 7-day suspension. Chukagian, 30 days for being knocked out, 21 days minimum, no contact. Again, same scenario with Jimmy Crute, 7 days mandatory, but there's where it gets weird. Modesta Bukauskas, the guy that he knocked the fuck out, 34 days suspension. 34. That's weird. Claudio Silva, 30-day suspension. Understandable. He got the shit beat out of him by James Krause. But James Krause has a 180-day suspension unless he's cleared by a doctor for the injury to his knee. Minimum 30-day suspension. Now we're getting into what the fuck territory a little bit. Almeida, 30 days. Kutaladze, 30 days. Gamrot, 30 days. Jillian Robertson, 7-day rest. She did good fucking work. Poliana, 30 days. Junyoung Park, 30 days. John Phillips, 30 days. Farasiam, 30 days. Malarkey, 30 days. Grisham, 7 days. But then Antigulov, 45 days for being knocked out. And then Said Nurmagomedov, 7 days for quick work. But Striegel, 180-day suspension unless cleared specifically by a facial surgeon. That's beyond ridiculous. He, one, walked into the shot, and two, it wasn't that big of a goddamn shot to begin with. So I cannot say that I am not happy that we're leaving Fight Island after this weekend, because as nice as it has been to have fights, there's been fuckery afoot every week of some fashion. I'm ready to be back in Vegas, so at least the fuckery is domestic fuckery, and it's what we can count on. Saudi Amato, bad judging, things like that. That being said, we will move along real quick to the next thing I want to talk about. We found out on Tuesday, that Chase Sherman has officially been suspended for 9 months by USADA for a failed drug test from when he fought back in, when was it? May? Yeah, May 13th. He took the short notice fight against Ike Villanova and beat the shit out of him. And then apparently his in-fight competition sample popped hot for, where is it here? Anastrozole. It's an anti-estrogen drug that is officially banned from UFC and athletes in general for the most part, because it is mainly used to get rid of estrogen and increase the effects of testosterone replacement therapy. So basically it looks like Chase Sherman was doing some TRT post BKFC, but pre back in UFC. And the reason he's only got a 9-month suspension is that he did announce when he came back to the UFC from BKFC that he had been using it when he was out of competition, because he wasn't in the UFC pool at the time, and that's allowed. The reason he got suspended was because he forgot to announce, or he forgot to declare, as they call it, when he got back into the USADA pool for the UFC, that it may be in his system. So he told them that he had been taking it, but he didn't tell them that he might still have it in his system. That's what the suspension is for. I get it. Chase Sherman's a big dude. He's been doing a lot of fucking boxing, a lot of BKFC. He's been fighting as a pro for some years now. That has been shown, excuse me, that is shown to take its toll on the male testosterone production factory. Case in point, TRT Vitor. Holy fucking shit. That was a whole separate fucking animal. Here we go. Next thing I do want to mention real quick here. Tora MMA, a new organization that we've talked about quite a bit, picked up several of the people that the UFC and Bellator and other organizations have been releasing, trying to basically build their own thing to compete with Bellator and the UFC. They got their tickets. They got their tickets to the Backstreet Boys. The reunion has come through Tora MMA. They lost 3 fights from their debut coming up this weekend, including the pushback of the debut. Well, I can't say debut. The reemergence, I guess would be the right way to put it, of Husamar Palhares, one of the literal legends, founders of MMA as we know it today, was getting ready to step back in the cage, and his opponent got himself some Backstreet Boys. The replacement that they found for his opponent on last minute then could not get his visa cleared to leave the country to come fight Palhares. So they just completely bumped it back. They're going to put Palhares back on a card next month, they said, if everything works out the way it looks like it will. So that kind of sucks, because that was one thing I was definitely excited to see. Was Gusman Palhares is one of the few people who started back in the OG crazy Wild West days and is still around and is still as dangerous nowadays as he was back in his early days of his career. So it sucks, but excuse me, he is not the one that had anything happen. He is healthy. He is clean. He has got a good passport and visa. So it's just a matter of getting him lined back up with a reasonable opponent, which they seem to be trying to do. We're supposed to have it back on next month. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That being said, speaking of people losing out on fights, before I get to these 2 fight announcements that I do want to go over real quick, we did find out that we've got a combo here, a fight lost and a fight gained. We originally were going to see Christoph Jocko next weekend on the Halloween card. Last minute, he's out. But the good news is they kept the fight on for Mahmoud Muradov, I believe is his name. Kevin Holland is stepping in on short notice, coming off of that hard fucking fought battle that he didn't win. And he acknowledged that he didn't win, but, you know, we'll see. So I'm curious to see how Holland's going to step in on short notice, since that's kind of how we saw him originally, was short notice against Buckley. And then we've seen Buckley go on to be much more of a badass than we have since Holland has actually been in the UFC now. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Now, a couple of fight announcements before we get into some actual meat and potatoes here. Talk with you fine folks. The first one I want to talk about real quick that we got the announcement for, I believe it was Monday. Let me see. I believe it was Monday when we got this announcement here. The return that people have been waiting for, OSP stepping back in against newcomer Jamal Hill. December 5th, OSP is deciding to stay at light heavyweight this time. He's not going back up to heavyweight. I get that he bounced around or tried to bounce around a little bit. I think realistically, if OSP is going to continue his opportunity in the UFC, it's going to have to be at light heavyweight. I think he could have been a great heavyweight contender, but he just waited too long to try and make that jump, and he didn't take enough time to properly build his body up to what it should be if he's going to fight at heavyweight, because he walks around at like 215, 220-ish, he says. But with some powerlifting and a change in diet, he could absolutely get himself to about 230, 235 of just solid muscle with enough base to help him have gas tank to push it. The problem is he's later in his life, man. He's been a wrestler. He's been a football player. He's been a fighter for, you know, almost 25 years now combined, not counting, you know, high school and, you know, early days training, just as a collegiate and as a professional. It's too late in the game to try and stack on the pounds, but he has proven many times that he is still a very, very dangerous fucking opponent at light heavyweight. So December 5th, we'll see what Jamal Hill has got up his sleeve to try and win that one. Can't wait to talk about that when we get a little bit closer. The other one that they announced this week, the rematch that, again, no one asked for, like a lot of them that we've been getting lately. This one actually might not be terrible. The problem is the implications in the division they're going to try and attach to it. And I'm calling it right now. They're going to try and attach implications to the division, to this fight. December 12th, UFC 256 has officially been announced. Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill 2, the runback. That's all I can say is deep sigh. Just I'm sure we'll talk more about that fight as it gets a little closer. One more thing here I do want to talk about before we get into some UFC meat and potatoes here. Shit, I have lost. Give me just a second here. Well, fuck you. There we go. Sunday, I believe it is under the Fight to Win promotion. Give me a moment. Let me pull it up here real quick. It is going to be on UFC Fight Pass. It is Submission Hunter Pro. That's what they are calling it. I think it's under the Fight to Win banner, but it is an all women's jiu-jitsu event. And the Happy Warrior herself, Roxanne Modafferi, is taking on the jiu-jitsu badass that is Danielle Kelly in a full-on competition that is very, very exciting. In true Happy Warrior fashion, Roxanne Modafferi has been talking trash and wearing goofy gis and anime stuff and cartoon jokes, and she's basically taking the same approach she does to her UFC fights to this event, and I'm with it. I'm down for it. I like that it's going to be an all-women's event. That's cool as shit. We don't see a lot of those. I like that she is willing to take on an opponent who is not a fighter. She is willing to actually step in and test her jiu-jitsu against a jiu-jitsu player, because Danielle Kelly is a badass jiu-jitsu player. She is a little gal, but man, she is a fucking nerd assassin for sure. That will be Sunday on UFC Fight Pass, the 25th. Yes, Sunday the 25th. But that now will bring us back around to the meat and potatoes segment of the meat and potatoes portion of this particular show here. The reason for the season, the namesake of this episode, the reason the thumbnail is what it is. UFC 254, Khabib versus Gaethje. I think the first and foremost important thing about this card, it's the final card in Abu Dhabi. After this card, it's back to Vegas for the rest of the year, and then we see where the beginning of 2021 takes us for the UFC. But like I said earlier, there has been fuckery afoot in almost every event that has gone on in Abu Dhabi. Not anything major, not anything deal-breaking, not fucking, event cancelers, but there's been some fuckery at every event, and I'm just glad to be fucking done with it. I don't like Abu Dhabi for fights to begin with. There's always some kind of fuckery or sketchiness going on over there. It's just a bad deal, and I understand it's lucrative for Dana and the fucking company, but fuck those guys. Let them come over here. That being said, for UFC 254 itself, the early prelims, it's just a pair of fights. They're not terrible, but they're not really exciting. Joel Alvarez versus Alexander Yakovlev. Meh. Liana Jujua versus Miranda Maverick will be a decent fight, but I don't think it's going to be incredibly exciting. So we're not breaking down early prelims. The regular prelim card itself, though, that's a little bit of a different story here. That is at least 2, possibly 3 out of 4 great fights here. The first one, Jung Da-un versus Smiling Sam Alvey at light heavyweight. Look, let's be realistic here. At this point, Smiling Sam is a fucking punching bag. He's a nice guy. He's clearly always a happy fucking dude, but he's a punching bag. He's not even gatekeeper status because he's not stopping anyone from being ranked. He's literally fighting new and way down the ranked guys. So, excuse me. I do think it's going to be interesting because Jung Da-un is very creative with his striking, and he is one of the larger Asian fighters that we've got in the UFC right now, and I dig it. But like I said, Smiling Sam just doesn't really have much to bank on. He's not really been in any big fights that he's done anything significant, and he doesn't really give you a whole lot of reason to be confident in anything that he does either. So I got Smiling Sam getting his ass kicked. The next fight, Alex Cowboy Oliveira, the Brazilian cowboy, versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. New guy making his debut, 12-0 record. I wish you the best of luck, but any day out with the Brazilian cowboy is a bad fucking day for a new guy. I think the Brazilian cowboy takes that one easily. After that, we have got Too Furious. We talked about it before, and we unfortunately have to talk about it again because now it's here. Casey Kenny and his beyond fucking lackluster performance 2 weeks ago on UFC Fight Night 5, Abu Dhabi, I believe it was, said he wanted the quick turnaround. They gave it to him, so he's stepping in against Nathaniel Wood. Props for a short notice turnaround, but honestly, I could genuinely give 2 fucks less about Casey Kenny stepping in again after that fucking boring ass performance last time, and I legitimately think that Nathaniel Wood is going to kick his ass. I don't think this fight is going to be incredibly exciting. I don't think it's going to be terribly performative, but you know, as they say, it is what it is. That, however, brings us to the premier prelim fight on this card: Tai Tuivasa versus Stefan Struve. This is such a great, ridiculous fucking fight. Stefan Struve, the literal tallest UFC fighter ever. Tai Tuivasa, large, but very much nowhere near the size of Stefan Struve. If you saw the face-offs this afternoon, they are like almost a whole person's height difference away from each other. It's kind of hilarious. But Stefan Struve is looking very lean, and Tai Tuivasa is looking very round. So I think this is going to come down to, can Tai get his game plan implemented words, excuse me, against that fucking giant, long, lanky dude that is the skyscraper Struve. We have seen Struve have potential. He's not the worst fighter in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but he has been so inconsistent and so lackluster, even after retiring and then unretiring. Like, I just can't see him focusing enough to take this fight away from Tuivasa, especially considering Tuivasa has been training with DC in California. I think if Tai Tuivasa has taken it serious and he's actually training despite not slimming down much, which is understandable if he's training with DC, I think there's just very, very few options for Struve to take this. I think Tuivasa takes that one and makes it an interesting fucking fight. Unfortunately for some, not for me because I don't fucking care for it, but for some, we won't get to see the shoey because there won't be a crowd. For those of you who are disappointed by that, though, don't worry. You can still go on UFC Embedded on YouTube. I believe it was episode 4. He taught some folks on Abu Dhabi how to do a shoey. Gym side. Sorry, that almost got me a little bit. And he walks them through it. And if shoey's your thing, you'll appreciate him teaching them the proper way to do a shoey. That being said, though, that will wrap us around to the main card itself. Do we have them both lined up? Let's see. Hot pocket. We do. Okay. Sorry, I had 2 different pages loaded because, once again, the UFC's own website does not have the fight card listed properly. They have not made any changes to it since they, quote unquote, finalized it 2 weeks ago. And fights have changed since then. So, that being said, the main card is opening with I don't know if you really call it a rematch or a run back. I think it kind of has to be a little of both, though. Ian Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev. This is the fight that happened a while back where there was a lot of trash talking. There was a lot of heat between the two of them. They come out to fight. Ian Cutelaba was rope-a-doping, played it up, looked a little too convincing as Ankalaev landed a fucking shot, and Kevin Murphy jumped in and stopped the fight. Thought it was legitimate, thought he was actually hurt. Stopped the fight. Well, everyone except Kevin Murphy apparently knew that what was going on, so the UFC agreed to run that one back. The difference here is I think Ian Cutelaba is still a little too fucking full of himself. I think he's a little high on his own supply, smelling a little too much of what he is selling. And I think he's going to come in just as cocky, if not more so, minus the antics coming into this fight. And honestly, I think Magomed Ankalaev just puts him the fuck down for real this time. No wobbly, no faking, no playing. I did get some picks here from the one and only Golf Tee on his thoughts over this, since he's not able to make it here this evening. He agrees with me. Magomed over Cutelaba. Moving along to the next fight after that. This one's a little more interesting for me here. Lilia Shakarova is making her debut in the UFC against Lauren Murphy. Shakarova, I believe, came from Invicta. Former champion, but a very weird, very flashy for a ladies side of the house style. Not necessarily that impressive though. Not a whole lot of big names on her resume. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, has had a bit of a rough go, but we know that she's a fucking brawler. She can stand and bang, and that's kind of Shakarova's style. So this is going to be an interesting matchup to see how the debut gets made. But I think Lauren Murphy, it's her fight to lose. Unless she really just doesn't show up at all, I think she's got this one in the bag, especially based on some of the things we've seen from her social media and from her on the Embedded series in Abu Dhabi right now. She's looking fucking lean and mean. She seems ready to fucking go. I got to go with Lauren Murphy on this one here. Again, same thing from Old Golfy, Murphy over Shakarova. That brings us to our next. This would be what we would consider the filler fight on the main card. I don't understand why this is on the main card and not on the early prelims. Put that fucking Tai Tuivasa fight here. Excuse me. But Jacob Malkoun against Philip Hawes. Middleweight fight with very little implications to anyone other than the two involved in it. I gotta say, I think Philip Hawes just has a little bit better of a full-rounded game than Malkoun does. Gaethje agrees with me here. Hawes over Malkoun. That being said, that will bring us to the People's co-main event of the evening, the third to last fight, as it were. Alexander the Dragon Volkov, or Drago Volkov, excuse me, against Walt Big Ticket Harris. This is one of those situations where, despite coming off of a loss, Walt Harris absolutely has a full head of steam. The loss to Alistair, excuse me, I almost called him Alexander. The loss to Alistair to Overeem in such a classy and a measured fucking fashion wasn't done to hurt. Just Walt Harris just didn't have the focus and the training that he needed at that point because of all the crazy shit that had gone on in his life and the unbelievable fucking loss that he had to deal with coming into that fight. We're over that hill now. We've crossed that fucking threshold. We're in new territory now. And Walt Harris, like many other folks, has spent the lockdown summer training his fucking ass off. He looks to be in great fucking shape. He's looking real quick. He's looking real crisp. We've seen that Volkov, for the talented guy that he is, just really isn't UFC top tier caliber talent. He had his chance to show it, and he's shown that time and time again. He'll get in there and he'll put on an interesting fight, but he just doesn't have gold potential in the UFC. I think at this point, Walt Harris, if he doesn't get to the gold, he's going to make a hell of a run for it. And I think Volkov is about to be where he starts that turnaround and makes his momentum heading uphill from the shit that he had to go through, from the trough that he was kind of stuck in for a while. Harris is a very pressure-heavy puncher, and we have seen that is exactly what makes Volkov fold. Ask Derek Lewis. Even at the last second, you can put Volkov the fuck out with a good shot. And we know with Walt Harris, he will still hold that one good shot all the way until the end of the fight. So I think this is a situation where the pressure and the strength of Harris are just going to, again, be too much for Volkov. And I think he's going to get his ass beat. He's going to end up sleeping again. As per the full copycat here, again, Gaethje agrees with me. Big ticket over Volkov. That, however, will bring us to the actual co-main event of the evening here. The Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier versus Robert the Reaper Whittaker. Bobby Knuckles getting back at it, and Dana White confirming already, after Israel Adesanya basically said as much, that the winner of this fight will get the next shot at the 185-pound belt. Man, when you boil it down, the salt of it is Robert Whittaker passed his prime years ago. Plain and simple. I think he was a great fighter. He still is a good fighter, but the prime that Robert Whittaker had to offer, the legitimate Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper days are over. You saw it in both of the Yoel fights, but then you saw how Adesanya just, despite all the shit talking and all the fucking the hubbub that was built up around it, Adesanya just picked him apart and then legitimately knocked him the fuck out. I don't think Whittaker has what it takes to stay top tier anymore. I just don't. And I think Cannonier is on enough of a tear that he can get past Whittaker and he can make an interesting fight with Adesanya. I still don't think he can beat Izzy, but I think he would give Adesanya a lot more problems than Whittaker did. And I think that's going to show Saturday night. I think he's going to give Whittaker a lot more problems than Whittaker anticipates. Maybe not as much as Izzy did, but I think Cannonier beats Whittaker. I think he lays him out. I think he catches Bobby Knuckles with some knuckles and puts Whittaker to sleep. I don't think we see a fucking judge's decision in this one here. And then I think we're on to the next with Cannonier versus Adesanya for the middleweight title, probably March, April-ish. Because Whittaker has already said that if he wins, he's taking Christmas off because he's going to get fat. And then he would have to fight again somewhere March, April-ish so he can cut the weight back down. I can't imagine Cannonier not doing something similar this late in the year. He knows he's not going to fight Izzy at Christmas time. So I think Cannonier takes it, and I think we see him matched up against Izzy sometime early beginning of 2021 for that belt. Now, that brings us to the legitimate meat of the meat in the meat and potatoes portion of the meat and potatoes section of this meat and potatoes episode. This is a truffle and gold flake coated, perfectly seared filet mignon brought to you tableside by a singing party. The problem is, we already kind of know how this song and dance is going to go. We've got Khabib, who is literally the UFC's wet blanket champion. He will wrestle fuck your legs into the canvas, hold you there, wear you down, and wait till you are ready to give up. Against one of the hardest hitting 55ers we have seen in a long time. He might hit harder than Conor. He's not a better striker than Conor, but he might hit harder than Conor McGregor does. And Conor McGregor is arguably the greatest striker in the 155-pound division. This fight has more than just implications for the belt on the line. Khabib is currently 28-0. This would put him 29-0. He wants to retire at 30-0 because that was his father's plan for him. He's already said that he doesn't see any reason to fight McGregor again after the Gaethje fight if he beats Gaethje. He also said that the person who beats Dustin Poirier next would be the next person that he fights for the belt. And surprise, surprise, look who's in the process of getting ready to fight Dustin Poirier next. And I have every confidence will beat him, Conor fucking McGregor. So that sets up a weird situation for Khabib if he wins. The other thing is that if he loses, that sets up a world of openings for Justin Gaethje because basically everyone in the division would be an interesting matchup against him. And he's beaten a fairly decent who's who on his way to the top here. This basically comes down to, does Dagestani Sambo combat wrestling have more prowess than USA wrestling? And does MMA wrestling factor into that? Because Khabib has shown he's got the Sambo experience. He will wrap your legs up. He will wet blanket around you. He will lay on top of you and throw weird little pop shots that don't really do damage until you have exhausted yourself. And then he will get you to stop. He will get you to tap, or he will just pound on you while you can't defend yourself because you're exhausted until they stop the fight. That is not how Justin Gaethje does things. Justin Gaethje doesn't want to wrestle. He is a USAA He is a USA wrestling graduate, I believe. He was collegiate. I think he was Division I for 1 year in high school, but basically has 20 plus years of traditional American wrestling, plus 10 plus years, almost 15 years now of MMA wrestling experience, versus Khabib, who has been doing combat sambo up until 6 years ago. Gaethje has more MMA wrestling experience. He has more wrestling experience, period, because it's not sambo, it's wrestling. But he's got better wrestling defense than anyone who has faced Khabib up until now. McGregor trained wrestling. Poirier had wrestling in his pocket. Al's the only person who has stepped into that cage who has had any success really shutting Khabib down with his wrestling, because Al, surprise, surprise, is an American wrestler. Gaethje's got the tools in his pocket to stop what Khabib is going to try and do. The difference is Khabib does not have the defense in his pocket to stop Gaethje's leg kicks that he has already said he's going to try to throw. He wants to take Khabib's legs out from underneath him and then punch the consciousness out of him. If he can keep Khabib from taking him down and holding him down, I have no doubt in my fucking mind whatsoever that that's exactly what he's going to do. We haven't seen Gaethje use his wrestling in the UFC, but if you go back to World Series of Fighting, if you go back and watch the older videos of Gaethje, he can wrestle his fucking ass off. He just doesn't, because he likes to strike better. He's also said himself, he might not be the best on his back when it comes to wrestling, but he's also trained for 25 years to get off his back, so he doesn't have to worry about fighting from his back, which is where Khabib is going to want to put him. So all he has to do is use what he already knows how to do to keep him from laying on the fucking ground with Khabib on top of him, and land a couple of kicks and a couple of good punches, because a couple of good punches and a couple of good kicks from Justin Gaethje do serious fucking damage. Ask Tony. Look at Tony's face. Tony got stopped like he has never been stopped in his fucking career by Justin Gaethje to solidify himself here to get this shot at the belt. I'm not even going to try and pretend that I'm a fan of Nurmagomedov. I dislike Khabib on a personal level. I dislike Khabib on a fighter level. I dislike Khabib on a moral level. I think he's a piece of fucking shit. I don't give a fuck what anyone else says. You can love him, you can hate him. I think he's a piece of fucking shit. I'm not going to be sad to see him lose that belt. I think Gaethje puts him to fucking sleep. In the third round, I think we see and new belt getting wrapped around the new waist. As I said before, we've got a full copycat roster here. Golf T agrees with me as well. Golf T sees Gaethje taking it over Nurmagomedov for the and new change of champions in the 155-pound division. We've got an interesting Saturday of fights coming up this weekend, folks. The thing that you have to remember, if you didn't have it written down, write it down right fucking now. This weekend's card is early. The early prelims on 254 start at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Prelim card starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Main card starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This is the early Abu Dhabi card, because when they're done, everybody's flying home. So don't forget to set your clocks. We got an early fight to finish out Abu Dhabi this weekend. That being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this particular episode here. This is the part where I would go around and let these other assholes tell you where you can get a hold of them. But since none of them are here today, fuck them. Come back and see us this weekend. We will have the What Did I Say show Sunday evening. So long as life doesn't throw me any more curveballs, I will bring you guys the recaps from 254 and from the ladies jiu-jitsu tournament as well. That being said, we are going to call that all for this particular episode here. I do appreciate each and every one of you, whether you are here live with us or you're catching this on a replay. We appreciate you just the same. If you appreciate us, you like what we do, give us a thumbs up. If you need the information we provide, subscribe and hit that notification bell down there so you don't miss an episode. If we bring the punchy kicky to your life that you just can't live without, share an episode of this show. We're trying to grow the damn thing, and we need some new people to see it in order to do that. On the other side of that coin, if we're just a couple of dipshits talking out our ass in front of webcams without actually knowing what the fuck we're saying, give us a thumbs down. We earned it, and we won't dispute it. That being said, we're going to get the fuck out of here for this evening and call that all for this episode. I appreciate you all for supporting. Keep your eyes out for a crazy card this weekend, and we will catch you guys on the recap show. Have a good one, boys and girls, and remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything unless you think stand back and stand by is a denouncement. That's so fucking dumb.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh.